our meeting and our agenda. And one of the things that I wanted to do, everyone, is just a little bit of a follow-up with the whole mystery seed thing that we all were made aware of over the summer. And last I am aware of is that it was part of a brushing scam, which is basically designed to boost sales numbers from some of these seed wholesalers or suppliers. And I believe the seeds were identified as things like cabbage and hibiscus and morning glory and lavender and things like that. So I did check in with Ag and Markets to see if they were able to determine what the source was, where they came from, and I have not heard back from those folks at this point. But interesting thing to add to our work and what we do. I also wanted to share with everyone that we have 2 white papers that have been completed and 2 that are being at least preliminarily considered for the upcoming year. So we've completed a white paper on using environmental eDNA, which includes some work that we've done with underwater video and combining the 2 as early detection tools. We also have another white paper that's been released. It's the cultural impact survey that we did a while back that had to do with invasive species affecting the well-being and livelihoods of people in the region. And then coming up, we're considering 2 more. One has to do with the work that Brittany's doing in terms of nutrient analysis and subsequent internal nutrient loading cycles on aquatic invasive plants. And then also of interest is Megan has been doing some work with different types of education outreach metrics and how they're used and how they can benefit us in terms of how we do outreach. And so there's a lot of interesting things going on, and those both of the first 2 papers are on our website. And the planned 2 papers, we hope to move those forward most likely next year, should we decide to continue with them. But keep an eye on our website for those types of things. There's interesting information on both of those papers and the 2 upcoming papers. And I also wanted to share with everyone some things about connectivity. And so we've been, as you know, working with our partners at the Nature Conservancy. And over the summer, we took a kind of a closer look at, our direct management and our prevention work. And then we kind of related that to connectivity. And so you probably all saw this on our newsletter that recently went out, but when we tallied up our acreage that we're doing direct work on, it came to just under 500 acres. However, when you look at the connectivity of our land and water resources, we were able to project that we actually, our work serves to protect over 5 million acres, actually close to 6 million acres. So the idea, to put that into perspective, what we do in the core forest of Tug Hill, for example, serves to protect the entire 750,000 acre forest. And if we look at that even in a different scale, and if we look at the Blue Ridge to Boreal effort that the Nature Conservancy is involved with, Tug Hill is part of that Blue Ridge to Boreal chain. So our work, is integral piece of even a larger system at a continental scale. So what we do in the Oswego River, for example, in the Erie Canal serves to protect the Finger Lakes and other connected waterways inland. And what we do in the St. Lawrence River in the Thousand Islands region serves to protect Lake Ontario, including inland connected waters. So think about that again in even an additional perspective. If we prevent the introduction of a single species into any of these systems, then we've served to protect that entire system. So I guess one of the reasons I wanted to share this with you is to look at our work as not only helping to protect our lands and waters in our own backyards or at the regional level, but what we do has much more broader reaching impacts. Nature Conservancy, for example, is working on this Blue Ridge to Boreal initiative. And I think it's important to, if you look at the red circle there, you can see Tug Hill and the Adirondacks and other forested lands in there. It's important for us to do our part, not only to protect Tug Hill, for example, but because that forest is connected with a much larger system, then it serves to play an integral piece of protecting that particular landscape. So it's safe to say that our invasive forest pest work on Tug Hill is one piece of the Blue Ridge to Boreal vision. And it's nice to know that we can play a role in that type of protection work. I also wanted to just briefly mention an initiative that we're considering. Has to do with weed-free gravel and forage. So this came about over the summer. Katie Malinowski and myself and several other folks got involved with an initiative that was brought to us by, I believe, someone in the Adirondack region who had received some topsoil, unscreened topsoil, I believe it was, from the Slilo region, and it was contaminated with invasives, I want to say Japanese knotweed. And so we got thinking, this person contacted us, geez, is there anything we can do about this? It is a significant pathway for the spread of seed and propagules. And we ended up connecting with the North American Invasive Species Management Association, who happens to offer a program, a weed-free gravel and forage certification program. And what that program does is it provides assurances that noxious weeds or invasives won't be spread through the movement of things like gravel. We're focusing on the gravel piece at this point, not necessarily the forage. And so we reached out to several folks around the state. We reached out to some soil and water districts in the region. We felt that this was a worthy pathway to address, and our statewide partners felt the same. And so we are currently considering a kind of a pilot program in the Slilo region to address this pathway. And should we be able to secure funding for it in the future, and should the pilot be successful, then it has the potential to, become more of a large scale, possibly even a statewide program. So it's something that we're talking about, that we're considering. And I just wanted to give everyone kind of a preliminary heads up that we're looking into trying to address this important pathway as a pilot program within the region, working with local soil and water districts. Knotweed biological control. So this is always a fun one. We've had good things happen with biological controls. We've had some things that haven't gone so well. One of the recent developments has to do with the knotweed biological control. And so you can see Baron Blossian here doing some of his work with psyllids that were approved this year for release. And, it's easy for us when we talk about biological controls as a kind of a long-term way to help suppress certain invasives. We look at biocontrols as kind of a tool in our toolbox to help us with long-term management or suppression of invasives. And we tend to get excited about biological controls, especially when they've been approved, and we can't wait to get out there and release them and see what kind of impact they have. The psyllids, unfortunately, as Bernd will explain, they're underperforming, and expectations for these particular bugs are pretty low. So as Bernd, will tell you, let's not get our hopes up on this one. He doesn't seem to indicate that this particular psyllid is worth further studying or mass rearing. That said, there are other biological control agents being considered for knotweed. So the point I'm trying to make here is that although we were all excited for this particular one, and although it was approved for release, it's, as I understand it from Barron, it is very much underperforming, and it just doesn't do enough damage to the knotweed plants to suppress them. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more on that, but I wanted to just share that update with everyone. On a more positive note, we did have success over this summer at varying degrees with the biological control for swallowwort, and that being the Hypena opulenta moth from the Ukraine. And so I know some of you have seen this short presentation before. Some of you have probably even seen it more than once, but I've been asked by folks to share it again. So I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of today's meeting to share it with you. So this past summer, we set up 4 research cages in the region. We had 1 cage on Carlton Island, 1 cage on Grenadier Island, and 2 cages in the Whaley Forest. And I'm going to focus on the Whaley Forest for the next few minutes because we have really good results from the Whaley Forest. We had some limited success, I would say, on Grenadier Island, and a little bit less success on Carlton Island. But there's different reasons and why that happened, and some of those reasons we know, some we're still trying to figure out. So there's varying degrees of success at each of these locations, but I'm going to focus on Whaley. And so, excuse me, this summer, we worked with a lot of partners at the Whaley site. We worked primarily with Lindsay Milbrath and his staff. They were able to bring out a bunch of pupae that you can see in the upper left here, sitting in vermiculite. And in the lower left, these buckets, we call them release buckets, where the vermiculite and the pupae were placed into. There's a cover that goes on it. It helps protect the pupae from predation, but allows the Adolph moths to emerge from the pail into the cage. And you can see in the upper right, Lindsay Milbrath placing one of the release buckets into the research cage. And subsequently, we did have adult emergence of the Hypena opulenta moth. Now I put success in the lower right because I think any one of these stages of development to go to the next stage would be a success. But there's just something very exciting when you actually go to one of these cages and see the adult moths in the cage. So just having adult moths emerge is it's a success in and of itself. And so here you can see 2 moths on the honey jars, 10% honey water that we put into the cage, so the adults have something to feed on once they emerge. You can see here it's one of the instars on the swallowwort plant, and you can see the damage that it's doing to the leaf. We found from past work that you don't have to completely defoliate a stem in order for that stem to die. Once you reach about 50% defoliation, the stem tends to die. And this is a photo from Lindsay, which shows an instar on the stem, and you can see the extent of the damage that they can do to swallowwort leaves. So over the summer, we released the pupae into both cages in the Whaley Forest. Week 1 and 2, we had successful adult emergence and egg laying. Weeks 2, 3, and 4, we had substantial larvae development, in some cases too numerous to count. I always tell folks that there was a time when Robert went out to check the cages and he had to brush larvae off his shirt sleeve and off his pant leg because there were so many in the cage. And by week 4, we had nearly 100% defoliation of the swallowwort plants within the cages. So to go from putting the pupae into the cages and 4 weeks later having almost 100% defoliation, that tells a very nice story and increases our hopes even more. Any one of these stages spells success. You can see here in the upper left the before picture of the swallowwort in the cage, and in the lower right you can see what it looked like after about 4 weeks. Once we achieved this, and once the food source was pretty much depleted, we removed the cages and liberated the insects in their various stages into the environment. So they're out there. Moving forward, as I mentioned, cages have been removed. Adults, larvae, and eggs have been liberated into the wild. We know that Hypena can overwinter in our climate. They've done so here and in Canada. To what extent, we really don't know. We hope for nominal predation during diapause. We'll be doing follow-up monitoring, and hopefully the population can establish itself, although we're unsure to what extent that will be. And then we're also hoping for some supplemental releases in the years to come. So we did have varying degrees of success with Hypena opulenta this summer. It is exciting to see the moths emerge and to see the defoliation occur. And like I say, we've removed the cages, so there are hopefully some insects still out there in the wild. So next we'll hear from Robert Smith, our terrestrial coordinator, and some updates on terrestrial work that we've accomplished over the summer.
All right. Good morning, everyone. All right. This year, there were 69 giant hogweed sites that SLULO Prism managed as part of the New York State DEC Giant Hogweed Control Program. 43 of these sites, there was no germination. 11 of these sites we treated using a root cut method. 10 sites we applied herbicide to. 3 sites we were not given permission to go on their land. And there was 2 new sites reported to the DEC for SLULO Prism management. Other invasive species managed this year, which were all managed using herbicide. We had swallowwort, which was managed at 59 sites located on 13 PCAs for a total of 70.8 acres managed. Japanese knotweed was managed at 4 sites located on 1 PCA for a total of 0.18 acres managed. And Phragmites was managed at 4 sites located on 2 PCAs for a total of 0.59 acres managed. All right, the Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative. The purpose of the Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative is to promote resilience to invasive pests, pathogens, and climate change in the urban communities of the region. Techniques include increasing tree species diversity, planting climate adaptable trees, promoting the use of native trees to increase diversity and benefit native wildlife, pest management, and planting the right tree in the right place. Oops, back up. Okay. The program includes a presentation with about the Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative for personnel involved in each city, village's urban forest program. providing these communities with the Urban Forest Sustainability Guide, which is currently being updated with DEC recommended revisions that may lead to a statewide release. We don't know that yet for sure. Reimbursement of up to $5,000 for the purchase of native trees and non-native trees not listed as invasive on IMAP Invasives website. $5,000 will be offered to 2 communities this year. This is an increase in reimbursement funds from the $2,000 originally offered for these 2 communities who participate in the program, and it's also an increase in eligible trees we will reimburse for. Lastly, we also provide urban forest resources on the SLULO Prism website for the communities to use. So far, this program has been introduced to 5 communities this year: Utica, Rome, Watertown, Oswego, and Fulton. Results have varied from brief discussions of the program to detailed briefings of the program with the city's urban forester to providing a presentation, and currently with one, we're waiting for the our request for tree purchase reimbursement. I will be visiting more communities over the next 2 years. The Black River Trail Feasibility Study. The Black River Trail is a trail that goes from the village of Black River near Fort Drum to Watertown. It is a frequently visited trail with an estimate of 104,000 visits in 2019. The area of the trail that we were concerned with is a 3.5-mile segment adjacent to the river, which, if you can see in the map on the upper right. The issue that we have there is that there's an abundance of several known invasive species along this part of the trail, including Phragmites, swallowwort, Oriental bittersweet, buckthorn, honeysuckle. Over the summer, Brittany and I have conducted a survey to determine feasibility of invasive species removal and control and restoration work. We divided the trail into 29 compartments. Each compartment was an 1/8 of a mile in length, and its width varied from segment to segment. So it was from the trail to the river on the north side and 100 feet from the trail on the south side. Tree abundance and tree abundance and canopy cover, herbaceous understory plant abundance and cover, invasive plant abundance and cover, and the location of culverts and tributaries were recorded in each compartment. Initial results of data collection revealed that this part of the trail has well over 200 plant species. A major reason for this large number of plants appears to be the varied topography and canopy cover along the river. This mix of conditions provides a broad range of moisture and light levels suitable to many different plants. Further analysis of this data and creating the feasibility report will occur during the fall and the winter. The report will prioritize the compartments for removal efforts and determine restoration planning requirements for the compartments. One important note is that the removal restoration efforts will be resource dependent. So whether we do any control work on this trail and how much we will do really depends on the approval of grant money. "2020 rare plant finds." During our early detection surveys, we find many native plant species when we are looking for invasives. All of these different kinds of native plants remind me and reinforce the importance of our efforts to reduce the impact that invasive species have on our native plant populations. Sometimes we find plant species that we just didn't expect to find due to the rarity and the fact that they are not known to be in the area. This year, we found 2 species that fit into this category. The first of these species is twin leaf or Jeffersonia diphylla. It is a threatened species in New York State and was only reported one time many, many years ago in the North Country. So our find confirmed that this species is still present in the area. The population we found is also the 3rd most north location known for this species. Twin leaf is a spring ephemeral, so its white flowers can be seen in April and May. It's really easy to spot when you find it, because the leaves are quite unique, having are being two-lobed and looking kind of like butterfly wings. The species can normally be found in moist forests with limestone soil, and usually in large clusters, which if you look at the bottom right there, you can see all that area green is all twin leaf. So it's not a common species up here, but where you can find, where if you do find it, you'll find it in a large group. The second rare species we found is green dragon, or Erisema dracontium. It's a exploitably vulnerable species in New York State, and our find was actually the first reported presence in Jefferson County. It's a close relative of Jack in the Pulpit. It's in the same genus. So it has a similar spike inflorescence with a spathe and spadix, which if you look really carefully, you can see right in the middle of the bottom right picture. And it is also normally found and prefers floodplain forests. And that concludes my my brief for the partner meeting. Thank you.
Robert, you've got a
Thank you,
question
Robert.
from Peter
Oh,
in the
okay,
chat.
what we got?
Peter's asked if the Natural Heritage Program was informed of the green dragon find.
We didn't.
Yeah, I believe we mentioned it to Steve Young.
Yeah, I believe we mentioned that to Steve Young. Yes. Yes, the twin leaf was definitely mentioned. I also believe yes, we did. We also mentioned that one to Steve Young.
And so we were going to collect a sample of that to submit to the New York Flora Association to have that record, the voucher specimen on record. However, there were less than 10 plants that we found, so we decided not to do that this year, but we can check back on it next year, just so that it's at least on record.
Thanks for your update, Robert. Nice work.
Rob, you also had a question in the chat box. I don't know if you noticed it from Patricia.
Yeah, we'll get to those, I think, during our open dialogue.
Okay.
So next we'll hear from Brittany in our aquatic reports.
Thank you, Rob. I am just going to. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see the field survey update. So we have been out in the field a whole lot this summer. I know most of you on the line have probably sent me an email or received an auto response that we're out and about quite a bit. I was doing a little bit of calculations and realized that between Robert and I, we have about 50 days out in the field total. And that's over 350 hours out there surveying our priority conservation areas, checking out and assessing our management sites, studying the Black River Trail, and then also collecting eDNA samples. So combined, that's 700 hours of time spent out in the field and hopefully finding native species like Robert just shared. We found some good ones, but then also finding invasive species and working with managers to try to see what next steps are, or if there's any kind of ways that we can better collaborate our work. So in our last partner meeting in August, I did share updates on Chaumont Barrens, Deer Creek Wildlife Management Area, El Dorado Preserve, and the Black Pond Wildlife Management Area. So today I'll talk about the next 5, and a total of 9 PCAs will be surveyed this year. With COVID and a little bit of delays at the beginning of the season, we did have to take a couple field sites off of our list. So we're hoping to get to those in 2021. So I will switch to the next slide. I apologize for a little bit of delay in here. So we went to Lakeview Wildlife Management Area and we did aquatic surveys on North and South Caldwell Ponds. We do know that there's presence of water chestnut in this area. However, we went there the week after DEC conducted water chestnut polls and we did not encounter any rosettes in our survey. So that's good. Kudos to DEC for hopefully getting all of those rosettes this year. We did find some other species that are worth sharing. I know a lot of you are interested in hearing more than just the negative sides of the invasives we're finding and how big those populations are. We're working on updating field reports. So if you want more of that in-depth detail, you can check out our website. We're hoping to have things go live within the next month. So at Lakeview, we encountered some swamp rose mallow, which is in the hibiscus genus. Water shield, which is one of my favorite aquatic plants, especially when you see really large, nice populations of it, and with the presence of water chestnut in the area, it's a good find. And then also broadleaf arrowhead. We did not find anything. We didn't go to some of the other areas in Lakeview, so the aquatic areas in Lakeview, but we're hoping to start adding more locations in the future. We did expand our survey this year to do terrestrial sites. So we actually went to each of the parking areas along the exterior border of Lakeview. And we did find some good, native terrestrial plant species as well, including the brown-eyed Susan, ground sailbush beetles, and blue vervain. However, unfortunately, we did encounter another species that we weren't expecting to find. So we did find some Oriental bittersweet. As you can see, Robert's kind of in the thick of it right there.
Hey, Brittany, your slides are not advancing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All we're seeing is the first picture of Lake. Now they're advancing.
Oh,
there we go.
I don't know why they were frozen in my screen. Okay, so there's some of the species that we did find. So then the brown-eyed Susan, the ground sailbush beetle, and blue vervain. And then, so the Oriental bittersweet, so you can see Robert here in the thick of the Oriental bittersweet. There is an American bittersweet, which is native to our region, but one of the differences is the location of where the fruit are found, or in the fall, there's different coloration as well. But we did find it early on, and we were able to find fruit. So That was really important for us to find that. We did reach out to DEC. Irene, I think, is on the line here. So I just wanted to give a special kudos to DEC for rapidly responding and going out and actually cutting and treating the bittersweet vines. So we'll keep that on our list to continue to manage. So then we went to Black Lake and we found some more cool species, which let me continue. It seems to be having a little bit of some issues here with my screen. There we go. Okay, so then we found some brown water scorpion, which is just a member of the stick insect family. And also while we're out on the boat doing all of these surveys and rake tosses, it's a pretty dirty job, and we make sure to scrub down the boat, the canoe, all of our gear each time before we go back and forth between field sites. One of the big things that, you know, we are seeing is that we don't want to spread any of this around. And so if we do find stewards, we allow them or work with them to check our gear. So the image that you can see on the screen here is actually a steward from state parks. So then, actually, before I move on from Black Lake, we did actually receive 2 reports of water chestnut from the public on Black Lake, which has never been found in that area before. And so we responded, Robert and I did, a little bit late in the season. We got there mid-September and we weren't able to actually find those rosettes. So we do have this on our list to go back to next year. But while we were up there, we had a report of water chestnut on the Oswegatchie River, just north of Black Lake, right outside of Heuvelton. And the person who reported it didn't get any photos or any information. And when Robert and I went to see that site, it was many acres of water chestnut strictly. So currently working on mapping that out, estimating the size, coming up with recommendations for possibly partners or managers to be able to look at that site and see if there's anything that they can do. Unfortunately, that's a very large population that is beyond just manually pulling and cutting rosettes. So another field site we went to was Chameau Bay. We encountered the flowering rush, which is actually an invasive species. It's not nominated in SLELO, but we do have 13 known locations on the Eastern Lake Ontario shoreline where it's found, Chameau Bay being one of them, although the heaviest known concentration of flowering rush is in Michigan and Ohio. I know Western New York sees a lot of it as well. So just something to share. Another species, the sago pondweed, it is not rare or protected. It was just a cool find. It's the only water body we found it in this season. And then water stargrass. So just another native species that we encountered. We did encounter an invasive species that we weren't the most thrilled to find, but it not completely unexpected. Starry stonewort is known to be in Lake Ontario, and so there is some pretty large populations of it in Chameau Bay. So as you can see on the image on the right, that's one of our attempted rake tosses, and pretty much the only thing we could pull up was starry stonewort. And if you look at the water behind, it's pretty much just completely covered. If anyone's looking for more information on starry stonewort, there's the Starry Stonewort Collaborative. So you just go to starrystonewort.org and there's a whole bunch of information on their site. So next up is the Salmon River. I just love this image. A lot of times we're out there and, you know, kind of immersed in nature, not really many other humans around. And so we often encounter different species. So in this case, a blue heron just that we spooked out of the water. We did find Eurasian water milfoil, swamp loosestrife, which is native, and water chestnut. And so we did map the locations that we found the water chestnut so that they can be hand pulled next year because there's yearly pulls at Salmon River. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, I know Rob kind of touched on the biocontrol for swallowwort and, you know, the knotweed studies. However, we saw a huge resurgence in purple loosestrife this season. I don't know if anyone else noticed large fields of purple loosestrife as well. This was the first time I've seen this in a really long time, where there was just, completely covered fields of loosestrife. This is one area that we haven't actually seen loosestrife before. So we're hoping to start working with some of the land managers and potentially seeking out some biocontrol, either the beetles or the weevils, depending on what's available, to release and kind of start getting back into that again to control the purple loosestrife. I see 2 questions in the box really quick. So there were no mute swans that we encountered at any of our field sites that we were at, and the pink purple flower was flowering rush. If you're interested or have other questions, you can email me and we can talk more about that. Our final field site that we are serving is the Oneida Lake and 3 Mile Bay region. We have a few sites left on the eastern area of Oneida Lake. So we're going out a couple more times to finish that up, and that'll conclude our field season. So more to come with that. And again, just check out our website. In a couple weeks, we'll send out an announcement when we get all of the field reports up online. So just to touch base on the macrophyte nutrient analysis, we collected samples last year. We were hoping to collect more this year. Unfortunately, the lab that we were working with was not able to specifically do any of the sampling or to do any of the analyzing of the samples that we were hoping to collect. So we're going to resume this collection in 2021. We're just trying to better understand the best way to manage water chestnut, what the impacts of water chestnut are on the nutrients and the ecosystems they're found in. And then also this kind of turned into figuring out how we can actually measure success in the areas that we are doing water chestnut management. So one of the things that has happened, I've worked really closely with Megan and Mitch O'Neill from the IMAP invasives team to create a new handout to provide recommendations on how you can actually start submitting that treatment information. If anyone's not familiar with IMAP, you can also export reports. So you put all your treatment information and the population information into IMAP, and you can export it and get the PDFs. So that's really great. So just kind of talking about that, you go out before, map out the size of the population. Then after you do the treatment, you can estimate how much was pulled, how big of an area, and other metrics that we're working around the state to actually come up with is a standardized measure collection. Some programs use garbage bags, some programs use laundry baskets. So there's just a lot of different ways that people are measuring the amount of water chestnuts they're pulling. So hopefully we'll start standardizing that in the 2021 field season. All right, so now talking about the Aquatic Restoration Initiative that we worked with Roots on. I don't think that Matt is on the line, but this was conducted on a couple of tributaries in the Eastern Lake Ontario region, specifically Sandy Creek, South Sandy Creek, and Deer Creek. And so the methods for this was to look at both the aquatic and the riparian species through visual observation, doing rig tosses, plankton tows, and then also setting aquatic live traps. So the actual field aspect of this has been completed, and we're actually expecting the first draft of the final report this week. So I'm excited to see that. That will include the complete analysis of all of the field work that was conducted, and then also recommendations for restoration for these areas in the future. And stay tuned because we will be releasing an RFQ in the coming months to get some subcontractors to go out and do restoration in the next couple of years. So stay tuned for that. With that, and another exciting find that we've had this field season, lots of awesome finds, was actually a pirate perch. So we did, the subcontractor for Roots was putting out live traps, as you can see in the image here. And we found a pirate perch, which is in the image on the top right. And so this is actually a pretty cool species. It's known to be in the area. However, I'll show you a quick distribution map. You can see there's not many tributaries where it's actually known to reside. And the area that we found this species in was actually, it hasn't been seen there in almost 50 years. So that was a pretty good find. But as with all protected species, rare species, vulnerably exploitable, We do want to protect the exact locations that they're found in so that we're not encouraging exploitation of any of these. So we're sharing these with partners and our close constituents and stakeholders, but we do want to protect these species continuously and, encourage people not to go out and trudge around trying to find the rare species that we're finding. So sorry, I have a lot to share. So the next special project to talk about is the eDNA sampling. This has been pretty successful this season. It's a little bit different because typically as soon as we collect samples, we run them down to the lab and they would analyze them for the species so we could have a rapid response to any unknown species or potentially important species to find. However, with coronavirus and other things going on, the lab we work with was unable to hire additional help this season. So we're actually going to analyze all of the samples we've collected at the end of the field season. We're working in 5 sites. So the Black River, Chameau River, Erie Canal, the Three Rivers intersection, which is the Seneca River, Oswego River, and Oneida River. So we're doing a sample in each of those 3 rivers, and then the Aquatic Restoration Initiative tributaries, so Sandy Creek, South Sandy Creek, and Deer Creek. I know it's a lot to take in and talk about, but it's been pretty exciting. We've been working closely with both the Nature Conservancy staff to help us with providing recommendations on species and also doing the actual sample collections. And then also thank you to DEC for those of you, if anyone's on the line, that we've been working with for assisting in the choice of the species, locations, and everything else. We're excited to continue our eDNA sampling in 2021 with some improvements, of course. And finally, just to leave on an even more positive and exciting note, so we expanded our steward program, as most of you know. We partnered with the Thousand Islands Land Trust, or TILT for short. And I just would like to thank them for their successful co-administration of this program. It went really well, even with the difficulties of the pandemic. We were able to get supplies for PPE from DEC. So all of our stewards were protected. They were consistently reporting their health to us and any concerns that they had. I was speaking with Elena yesterday, and she reported that the stewards in total actually worked over 6,000 hours at the launches. I have some preliminary data that I want to share. We did actually have stewards out into October. However, I haven't QA/QC'd all of the data and I'm working on the analysis. So some preliminary results as of September 15th. We conducted over 10,500 inspections with a 95.5% participation rate. And I think that's huge because at the beginning of the season, we were getting about a 12 to 15% decline in inspections, so that participation rate was much lower. But then as we got towards the end of the season, I think people got more comfortable with the stewards and talking to them. We did reach 26,000 people, and the average group size was about 2 to 4 people. However, our largest group was 14, and then the largest watercraft group was actually a cluster of 11 kayaks. So the people that have been a part of this were from all over the region, including Alaska, Washington, down to Texas, Florida, and Maine. So we're definitely getting visitors from New York State, even with the pandemic going on. So we're continuing to expand this and meet new people. Some other, just quick updates on this is our top sites. We're actually Lake Bonaparte, North Sandy Pond, South Sandy Creek, and more. Interestingly enough, South Sandy Creek is primarily just a car top launch, but this was one of our busiest launches. So that was a really good addition. And it seems that the participation rate was really great. 65% of the boats that we are inspecting are launching, so protecting our water bodies from species coming from other areas. And almost half of the boats were actually in water within the last 2 weeks. So looking at that, 20% of them were in different water bodies. And as I continue to analyze the data, we'll have a better understanding of if a boat was in a different area, were they also bringing invasive species or carrying debris on their boats? We did find just about 1,000, maybe a little over 1,000 boats that had aquatic invasive species attached to them. And then finally, I just want to share a little bit more of the results of this. So of our almost, just over 10,000 inspections, 85% of the boaters said that they'll continue to clean, drain, and dry, even if there's no steward present. So we can't cover the launches, every single launch all the time. So knowing that some of these people are willing to do this and kind of stepping out of their boundaries to make sure that they're looking for invasives, that's huge. 35% of the people that we talked to, or 9,000 of the people that we talked to, had actually never encountered a steward before. So we're potentially spreading our message about invasive species and protecting our areas in better ways. And we collected some reflections from the stewards. And so I just wanted to kind of touch a few of those and share some of that, just because I think that when we talk about the steward program, a lot of times we envision a steward at a specific launch protecting that specific water body, but they're protecting so much more than that. So for example, the stewards that are at South Sandy Creek or in any of the wildlife management areas, they're not just protecting that launch space, they're protecting that entire wildlife management area. But then also wherever those boats are going next, say they're going into the Finger Lakes or the Adirondacks, we're continuing to protect those other water bodies as well. So some of the stewards shared that they were shocked with the number of people they spoke to and the number of surveys they completed. They just enjoyed being out in nature and communicating with people, sharing information, seeing all the different types of boats, and just sharing that message with the boaters, and also recommending the position to other people. Also, so this, when I was a steward, one of my favorite things was having those regulars that came to the launch weekly and just being able to have really good, consistent, fluid conversations with them. So a steward also experienced that and enjoyed that as well, because you get to talk a little bit more in depth about some of the different impacts of invasives and how they can get involved in their own region. And then finally, one of our stewards was a returner, just thanking us for hiring them back, and that it was a really great experience again, and that they're hoping to continue in the future. So with that, I just wanted to leave my aquatic stuff on a positive note. We're definitely looking forward to our watercraft inspection steward program next year. So thank you, Rob, and you can take it back. I'm not sure, Rob, if you are speaking, but you are muted.
So thanks, Brittany. I just wanted to say real quickly that, we do have some questions in the chat box, and I'd like to hold off on those for our open dialogue, and we can go through them and address them. I was not able to respond to some of them in the chat box because I'm told that if I click on the screen while someone else is sharing it, I gain control back, and I didn't want to interrupt presentations. So real briefly, I just wanted to share with everyone, most of you know, we do have a part-time staff member, Zach Simek. He is a shared position with the Adirondack Prism. And Zach is what we call our conservation and GIS analyst. He does some technical work for us. He was not able to make today's call, but I did want to share with everyone that he is working on several things for us. We have a whole list that we've given Zach and requested his expertise on. We prioritized that list, and the three things that Zach is working on for us now includes a field report fillable form, something of that nature for our early detection surveys. You may recall in the past, our seasonal crews would go out, do early detection work on a PCA, come back into the office, prepare a field report, and then go back out in the field and start the next one. We're doing it a little bit different this time. Robert and Brittany are being much more thorough with our early detection work. And so we're trying to find or create an easier way to create those field reports. And we've been working with Zach to develop some type of a easy upload or fillable form so that we can report out on this a little bit more efficiently. We're also asking Zach to help us do some mapping and analysis work on the Black River Trail feasibility study. That digital mapping will help us make determinations on what is or what is not feasible to do on the Black River Trail. And then we've also asked Zach to help us create a master map of the priority conservation areas that we're currently focusing on in the SLELO region, and then possibly add a kind of a treatment layer, if you will. That way, our partners can go online, pull these maps up, see what we're doing, where we're doing it, and how it's going. So next, we'll hear from Megan Pistolis, our Education and Outreach Coordinator. Megan has been very busy doing E&O work, and the screen is all yours, Megan.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. So I'm just going to give a snapshot of education and outreach stats since July. So we continue to enhance our presence on social media, and we have reached over 28,000 people and have had 659 likes, shares, and comments on our posts. We've had nearly 6,000 visits to our website since July. Due to COVID, we haven't had as many events, but we have had some webinars. We've had 5 webinars. And at those webinars, we've had a total of 89 attendees. And just some highlights for events coming up. So the fall and winter months, we often host a series of guided Hemlock Woolly Adelgid walk and talks. However, due to COVID, we're switching to a virtual approach and hosting a webinar to engage hikers and snowshoers to keep an eye out for Hemlock Woolly Adelgid. And we're also hosting a virtual hike challenge that we're asking folks to go out to some trails in the region, check the branches of the trees, the hemlock trees for Hemlock Woolly Adelgid, and then share a photo of their experience on Facebook to engage and to win some cool prizes. And I just wanted to thank all the partners that are collaborating to showcase this virtual hike challenge on Facebook that is going to be launched in November and run until March. Because that's the time period in which the white woolly masses are most visible from Hemlock Woolly Adelgid. Also coming up is a What We're Protecting webinar. We're gonna focus on unique ecological rarities that make the SLELO region special and the work that we do to protect them. And also SLELO will be getting national and international recognition at some upcoming conferences. We've got the Midwestern Invasive Species Conference coming up in the beginning of November, along with the Cornell In Service Conference that many of you are familiar with. We'll be speaking there as well. And just a little placemaker here for you. 2021 is a symposium year, and the Education Outreach Committee is collaborating to put together a nice program. So stay tuned for more information about that. You can register and view our events right on our website at sleloinvasives.org/events. And I also just wanted to let folks know a few things about some resources that are available on our website. So I'm going to go live here, hopefully, and just show you this social media toolbox resource that's available on our website. If it will open for me.
So it opened up on my second monitor. Let me see if I can
Okay.
bring it over for everyone.
Thank you, Rob.
Are you seeing it?
I am. I think I have to get remote back though. So hang on one stop. Maybe not. I can't move though. Rob, if you would just scroll up,
You've got it.
All right,
You've
it's me.
got it.
Okay, so if you go to our website here and click on resources, if you scroll down here to the social media toolbox, it opens it up and there's just some pre-made infographics, if you will, and suggested captions that go along with them. And then like, the tags and hashtags and whatnot to use available. Some really nice ones for spotted lanternfly are here that were provided by Putnam County. Jennifer Lerner, the Putnam County Cooperative Extension, she made these ones here for everybody's use. So I just wanted to let everybody know that those are here, and there's going to be much more added here, but it's just something nice for those of you who are managing a social media page and wanting to collaborate and just have some invasive species outreach included in your program. This is available for you. Also available is a Facebook group that has been created. Most of you are already engaging in that, at least those of you doing social media. And it's just a social media post share group. It's public on Facebook. So if you're not part of that group already and want to be, just reach out to me and I'll add you to the group. And what we're doing is we're sharing posts that we want partners to share on their own pages just to enhance awareness and collaboration on that. Also, while I'm on the website, I just wanted to let you know, we did do some updates and some changes. So if you're on the website and you're trying to find stuff, the drop-down menus are no longer there. So if you click on things and you're used to the drop-down menu, instead it's over here, sub-menus on the side. All right, so that is different now, just to let you know, in case you're trying to find something. And also wanted to point out that we did put on our events page here the upcoming partner meeting dates. So you can go ahead and save the dates for those now. And also some links here to view the schedule for the PRISM statewide webinars that are every month except for these months here. So you can access their schedule and their recordings. Rob, you can go back to my slides. If anybody noticed a broken link or anything like that, or can't find something on our website, just email me so I'm aware of it and I can fix it. Okay.
Okay, I think we're both,
Oh, I got it.
you still have control of the screen.
Yep. And just a cool update for you. So Nature Up North has started a podcast about people and nature in the North Country called Naturally Speaking. It's pretty awesome. It's right on their website. You can check it out. It was also featured in our newsletter. So SLELA is going to be featured in one of their upcoming episodes. We will announce when the episode is aired. We'll put it on our Facebook page and on our website. So if you haven't done so already, please do follow us on Facebook so you get notifications like these and just keep updated on our news. Okay, so I wanted to just give a brief species on the move update. So first time detections of spotted lanternfly were found in New York State. Viable egg masses of spotted lanternfly were found in all 5 New York City boroughs, including the Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. In Connecticut, single and multiple adults were found in New Canaan, in Stamford, West Haven, and Greenwich as well. There were some single finds, and that led agencies to believe that spotted lanternfly is likely being transported to new regions, likely hitchhiking on vehicles and other equipment. Also, Asian longhorn beetle has made its way to South Carolina. It was detected for the first time this summer, and over 2,500 trees were found to be infested in South Carolina. And the Adirondacks got hit hard this year. Emerald ash borer was found for the first time in the region in the town of Chester, and hemlock woolly adelgid was found for a second time along Lake George with an infestation of about 250 acres along the eastern shoreline. More details about the hemlock woolly adelgid and other species on the move were highlighted in our recent newsletter. So if you haven't read our recent newsletter yet, please do. Please do check your inbox and your mail inbox for the release that was sent out last week. The mail has a direct link to our newsletter that helps us gain an understanding of how many readers we're getting. If you didn't get the email release, please do let me know so I can be sure to add you to our mailing list to receive it.
Great. So Megan, I think I have to get the screen back from you here. There, hopefully I have control of the screen and everyone can see our next slide here. So thank you, Megan, for that update. I also like to try and include our partners at the state level in our meetings. Sometimes it's when we're doing in-person meetings, travel isn't always available, but to include updates from statewide partners in our virtual meetings, I think is a little bit easier. So I've asked folks from DEC, the Research Institute, Ag and Markets, and IMAP for updates if they wanted to today. The folks at IMAP are not able to be on the call today, but you can see a couple of IMAP updates from Meg Wilkinson at the bottom of the screen. Tom Elgire from Ag and Markets was also not able to attend. We hope to have some updates from him in the future. I do believe that we have folks from DEC and NESRI on the phone. So why don't we start with DEC? If there's anyone from the Invasive Species Coordination section in Albany that would like to provide some updates to SLELO partners, feel free to unmute and announce yourself.
Hi, everybody. This is Kathy McGlynn, Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator. And I'm just going to give you an update on aquatic topics across the state. We've had reports of northern snakehead, confirmed reports of northern snakehead in the Delaware River, where we've collected eDNA as well as used traditional gears to confirm that. We've also had a confirmed report of Brazilian Elodea in Erie County, the first in Western New York, actually the first outside of Southeastern New York. So that's going to be something we'll be looking into addressing next season. There's been a resurgence of hydrilla at Creamery Pond, which was the first ever reported location for hydrilla in New York, which was treated in 2008, unfortunately with only 1 year of herbicide. So we'll also be working through how to manage that next year. We are still working in Westchester County on the treatment of hydrilla in the Croton River, and after injection, the herbicide injection period ended. We were between injection periods. We actually had to restart the injection period. We did find some scattering, handful of plants along the shore in 2 locations, which we'll need to work through in terms of what approach to take for next year's surveying and potential spot treatments. So we'll be having our debrief for that project on November 30th. We're also beginning the preparation for the treatment of Ludwigia peploides, or floating water primrose, in the Peconic River. Folks there have been hand pulling it since 2006, and it isn't working very well. So next season, we're looking into treating a 1 acre area with 2 different herbicides to see what works out and to see what kind of stakeholder response we get, and then move forward from that for a more large scale project, probably starting in 2022. Let's see what else I can, we have the Mohawk River Aquatic Plant Survey, which was completed its first season, no hydrilla found, which was the main focus. We did find the usual suspects of water chestnut, Eurasian water milfoil, and zebra mussels, as well as curly leaf pondweed. Hudson River surveys of the most of the locations with the characteristics that are most likely to support an establishment of hydrilla that would potentially escape from the Croton River. No hydrilla has been found during those surveys as well. And no hydrilla has been found in the upper Susquehanna River, thank goodness. In addition, I just wanted to add some more details about the statewide Watercraft Inspection Steward Program, which started a little rockily because of the pandemic, but has been a very successful season across the state, and many thanks to both Brittany and Elena for their work on this, as well as their stewards. We've had more than 340,000 boat inspections this season, as well as more than 19,000 interventions. And 2 notable interventions were hydrilla interceptions at both Lake Ontario and Lake George by stewards, which is wonderful. And let's see, was there anything else I wanted to mention? I think that's it from me. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Kathy. So I believe Carrie from the Research Institute is on. Carrie, would you like to provide some updates to our partners?
Hi, Rob. Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Rob, I just wanted to share my screen for a minute. Would that be all right?
Sure. I don't see a request in here.
It says I cannot screen share while other participant is sharing. You might need to make me a co-host too. Let's see.
Hi, Carrie. Can you try sharing your screen now?
Yep, I am. Let's see. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. So thanks so much, Rob, for giving a little space for all of us to give updates. I just wanted to, I know that I haven't been in a SLILO PRISM meeting for maybe a year or more. So for those of you who don't know what the Research Institute is, I just wanted to provide one slide overview. We are part of the New York State Invasive Species Network. We're funded just like the PRISMs and IMAP. We're funded through EPF funds that are administered by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. And our role is really to work at the interface of research and management. And we coordinate invasive species research to help prevent and manage the impact of invasive species in New York State. And so I just wanted to point out a couple of things right now. We do have some new ways for people to stay up to date on some of the work that we're doing, and also to get news on new research, on new funding opportunities, on new events. And that's by signing up for our newsletter. We have been circulating it on the PRISM listservs, but eventually we'd like to just have people signing up for our listserv to receive the newsletter. In every newsletter, we have a monthly researcher spotlight. So we interview a researcher that's working with invasive species so people can become familiar with some of our local and regional researchers that potentially could partner with us or provide information to our organizations, or try to address some of the research priorities that the PRISMs and partners have come up with. We also summarize a research article every month, and so that we kind of boil it down with the main points so that people can stay up to date on some of the new research that's coming out in the scientific journals. And we also scan many journals to look for relevant articles, and we compile their abstracts. So if you just want to get an idea of what invasive species research is being published, you can skim these. And these are all available on our website, and also with links in our e-newsletter. So just wanted to put that on your radar so you can keep an eye out for that and also sign up for it. And we do have some upcoming events in the next couple of weeks that I wanted you to be aware of. So I am the co-chair of the North American Invasive Species Management Association Biocontrol Committee, and we're hosting a North American Biocontrol Summit next week on October 28th from 11 to 3 Eastern Time. I put Eastern Time because it's national, so we have people in all time zones participating. It is free. We did get sponsorship through BLM and the state of Wyoming to make this free, and we'll have researchers from Europe and from all regions of the US providing updates. So if you want to register, you do have to register even though it's free. So go to this website. If you go to the NASMA webpage and look under webinars, that will be available. The link will be available to register there. We are still hosting the Cornell Cooperative Extension Agriculture in service again this year. However, it is virtual, as you all would imagine. And instead of having 3 full days of invasive species track programming, we each are assigned 1 hour per day. So we'll have 3 webinars. One is on jumping worm, state of the science, from our J-Worm working group. It's a collaborative that we've assembled of researchers addressing jumping worm issues. My team here will be giving an update on the invasive species research priorities that were identified through a new process, a new methodology this year, and we'll be discussing how those are being advanced. And then Meg Pistoles is working with us to coordinate a session on tools, tips, and tricks for invasive species outreach and education in a virtual world. She'll be partnering with other experts in the field of virtual marketing and event coordination. And so that will be 1 per day from 1 to 2. We're also hosting a networking lunch for invasive species program work team. So that's to bring together CCE together with the New York State partners and as well as faculty and researchers to talk about invasive species issues. And that will be during lunch break on November 5th from 12 to 1. And I also, although there's some overlap with the Biocontrol Summit, wanted to point out the monthly All Prism webinar will be next week. And Jim Duncan from the Forest Ecosystem Monitoring Cooperative will be talking about some research he did in collaboration with faculty from SUNY ESF on assessing the risk of invasive plant introductions at trailheads in the Adirondack Park. And so all of this is available on our website at www.nisri.org. You can, as I mentioned, we do have a listserv. We also have a Twitter and a Facebook where we're making our research summaries available, pointing out new and exciting research and other resources. So do sign up for those. And thanks so much, Rob, for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Carrie. Just getting the screen back here. My apologies. So that brings us to our open dialogue and wrap up. And if I can bring up my chat box here, we can probably have some open dialogue and some questions. I didn't want to take some of these questions earlier because I didn't want to mess up the Zoom. So do you have some questions going back, I think, to a question from Irene asking Brittany and Robert if they saw any mute swans in the Salmon River this year?
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and thanks, Irene, for asking. We actually did not see any mute swans in any of our field surveys this year.
Great. And then we had a question from Becky Miller about water shield. Is water shield considered a native plant? I believe it is. Can anyone help me on that?
That's correct. It's a native.
Yeah. Emily Sheraton asked about the biocontrol agents for purple loosestrife and if they had anything to do with drought conditions. Irene responded with the weevils and the beetles don't like to be inundated with water, so probably not. Drought may have helped the plant to grow a little better this year. Patricia Schulenberg asks about adding the St. Lawrence River to eDNA sampling near Robert Moses State Park, New York side. We did about 3 years of eDNA sampling on the St. Lawrence River. And I think this year, Brittany has decided to look at some new sites. The cost prevents us from simply adding sites after sites and maintaining those sites. So we like to switch it up. Is that correct, Brittany?
Yeah, so this year in our strategic plan or in our work plan was designed for inland rivers specifically. So we might move back out to Ontario or St. Lawrence River in the future, but.
Great, thank you. And Pete Zimmer is asking Irene if DEC is still managing mute swans. I don't know if Irene is still on the line or if anyone else can answer that. Okay, Peter, can't answer that right now. So that brings us to the close of our meeting. If anyone would like to stay on for further discussion with anyone, you're welcome to. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 20th. It will likely be a virtual meeting. I have posted Our email address is on the screen. We are all available. Feel free to email any of the team here at SLILO if you have any concerns, questions, or would like to follow up on any of our discussions today. I do want to thank all of our partners, and I want to thank Robert, Megan, and Brittany. Despite all the distractions of this year, have been able to get quite a bit of work done. So good job, everyone, and we're still moving forward with other work too. And so Irene did mention that, yes, DEC is actively managing mute swans. So with that, I will end today's meeting and thank everyone for taking time out of your day to participate. I'm going to keep the channel open for a few more minutes in case anyone would like to unmute and have open discussion. But if you have other things to move on to, again, thanks for participating, and be well, and we will hopefully see everyone soon. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, so we're down to about 11 participants. I don't know if anyone wants to unmute and have conversation.
Yeah, this is Patricia. I had a question. I saw that the cooperative weed management area grant for Gleary was open. Do you know if other funding opportunities for invasive species are management or are open?
I don't. I know that usually we receive emails when there's funding lines open and available. I have not received anything lately, but I would pose that same question to anyone else on the call if they are aware of funding lines that are open right now.
I'm not aware of much of anything. I know, some of the funding programs are sort of in a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if anybody is interested, I know this is kind of a strike while the iron is hot kind of moment. I'm worried that a lot of funding revenues are going to be drying up for next year. So if anybody's interested in collaborating, let me know.
Sounds good. Anyone else have anything you want to chat about briefly before we?
I will just say we do have that invasive species grant document available from the SLILO Prism Symposium that Megan posted on the website. And, I tend to just kind of routinely check those lists to see if those opportunities open up. So that's, one way to see real quick if any of the funding is open. Otherwise, usually there's announcements we'll share on our listserv and things like that too. And I know you're subscribed to that, Patricia.
Thanks, Emily.
No problem, Rob. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much does it for today. Thanks again for jumping on the call today. And like I say, feel free to email any of us for any follow-up discussions you'd like to have. So I will end the call officially.